Go to any used car lot in America today, and you'll see them right away. Not in the front, not under the bright lights, not where the salespeople put the shiny models. No, these pickups are in the very back. Dusty, overlooked, often reduced in price twice because no one has seriously asked about them for weeks. And while these old trucks are waiting quietly, buyers are lining up in front for a newer F-150. Built in 2021, already 70,000 miles on it, but still with a price tag of $42,000. Sounds crazy? That's exactly what happens every day. I've been a mechanic for 23 years, and I'll tell you honestly, many of these forgotten pickups from the back row will still be running when some modern trucks are already in the junkyard with defective cam phasers, broken 10-speed automatic transmissions, or expensive engine damage. And no, I'm not talking about cheap junk cars here. I'm not talking about vehicles where you say, well, it's okay for the price. I'm talking about pickups that are from a time when manufacturers weren't obsessed with turbochargers, direct injection, complex electronics, and automatic transmissions with more and more gears. This video is about 5 dirt cheap pickups that hardly anyone wants to buy today, even though they offer exactly what many new trucks have lost: simple technology, inexpensive repairs, and real long-term durability. And believe me, the best one comes in first place. Because in my opinion, this pickup is one of the most underrated trucks on the entire used car market. Place 5, Mazda B-Series 1994 to 2009. In 5th place is a pickup that many people either don't know at all or completely misjudge. The Mazda B-Series, sold in the USA from 1994 to 2009. Many see the Mazda logo on the tailgate and immediately think, this is some strange Japanese small truck for which you won't get any parts later. But that's exactly the big mistake, because the Mazda B-Series is mechanically basically a Ford Ranger with a different front and a different emblem. Same frame, same engines, same transmissions, same technology, and the same spare parts that you can get in almost any parts store. The difference is not under the sheet metal, the difference is only on the tailgate. And it is precisely this Mazda logo that ensures that you often pay several $1,000s less than for an almost identical Ford Ranger. I had a young customer in the workshop last spring. He was just about to start a small landscaping company and had $4,500 in his pocket. He asked me what pickup he could afford without immediately having a construction site in front of his door. I sent him to look at a 2008 Mazda B2300. The car had 142,000 miles on it and was supposed to cost $4,200. At the same dealer was a 2008 Ford Ranger with 138,000 miles, almost identical, for $6,800. Technically, it was basically the same truck, built on the same line in Twin Cities, Minnesota. He bought the Mazda and saved $2,600, and this pickup has been running in his company for 14 months without a single major repair. Just oil changes and brake pads once, nothing more. Particularly interesting is the 2.3-liter Duratec 4-cylinder, which has been in these trucks since 2001. No turbo, no direct injection, no complicated carbon problems, but simple naturally aspirated engine technology with a timing chain and classic manifold injection. Exactly such engines seem boring on paper, but in the real world they are worth their weight in gold. I have seen these engines with 280,000 miles on the original internals, only with regular oil changes every 5,000 miles. The 5-speed manual transmission behind it is almost indestructible. The 5-speed automatic is also solid if the oil has been changed about every 60,000 miles. Price-wise, clean B-Series models with under 150,000 miles often range between $4,000 some and $7,500. A comparable Ranger, on the other hand, often costs $6,500 to $10,000. So you are essentially buying the same vehicle, only cheaper, because the market underestimates the Mazda logo. If you're looking at one, be sure to check the frame behind the rear wheels for rust, especially in the so-called rust belt. Many of these trucks have lived hard. Also check the radiator support and the front wishbone bushings, as these are typical wear points. If these areas look good, such a Mazda B-Series can be a real 25-year truck for the price of a large ride-on mower. So we'll place 4, Dodge Dakota. In fourth place is a pickup that Dodge discontinued in 2011, and somehow the market has never really forgiven them for it to this day. The Dodge Dakota. It was never quite as small as a Ranger, but never as big as an F-150 either. Its strength lay exactly in between. It was a real middle ground for people who wanted more truck than a small compact pickup, but didn't need a huge full-size truck. Under the hood were engines from a time when Chrysler still placed great emphasis on robust commercial vehicle technology. Of particular interest are the 3.7-liter Magnum V6 and, above all, the 4.7-liter PowerTech V8. A few months ago, a building contractor brought his 2007 Dakota with a 4.7-liter V8 to my workshop. He had bought the truck 3 years earlier with 110,000 miles for $6,800. In the meantime, it had reached 187,000 miles, and he wanted to know before a long trip whether the car would still handle it without any problems. I went through the whole truck. The suspension was tight, the frame clean, the compression was within the target range on all 8 cylinders, and the original transmission shifted as cleanly as if it only had 30,000 miles on it. I told him he could drive to California and back without worry. That's exactly what he did, and the truck is still running today. The 4.7-liter PowerTech V8 does have a somewhat tarnished reputation, but you have to take a close look. The early versions from 1999 to 2003 actually had problems with valve seats and overheating, especially if owners ignored coolant changes. But the later versions were improved. From 2008, the engine received revised cylinder heads, better cooling and variable valve timing. This second generation of the 4.7-liter V8 is much better than many people believe. It produces 302 HP, can tow around 7,000 pounds, and runs on regular gasoline. And that's exactly what makes it so interesting. A lot of utility, simple technology, and a market price that is often significantly below what comparable trucks cost. A Dakota from 2008 to 2011 with a 4.7-liter engine and reasonable mileage often costs between $6,000 and $10,000 today. Compare that to a Ford F-150 from the same period with the 5.4-liter Triton. This engine is notorious for spark plugs breaking off or flying out, and often costs several $1,000s more to purchase. And then there are the repairs on top of that. I regularly pull broken spark plugs out of these 5.4 Triton engines. This is not a rare internet fairy tale. It happens constantly in real workshops. With the Dakota, the inspection points are pretty clear. Take a look at the upper ball joints because they are often worn around 120,000 miles and cost around $400 to repair. Check the oil in the rear differential because many Dakota owners have never changed it. And listen carefully for noises from the upper engine area. A slight ticking can be normal valve train. A loud ticking, on the other hand, can mean that the previous owner ran the engine with too little oil. Then you better move on, because a good Dodge Dakota is not a show truck that will make you shine in front of the restaurant. But if you're looking for an honest, powerful pickup that can do more than a small Ranger and costs less than many full-size trucks, then this forgotten Dodge is much more interesting than the market wants to admit today. Place 3, Chevy S10, 1994 to 2004, with 4.3-liter Vortec VEs. In third place is the pickup that felt like it kept half of the small businesses in America running in the 1990s and early 2000s, the Chevy S10. More specifically, this refers to the model years from 1994 to 2004 with the 4.3-liter Vortec VRCX. This engine is the real reason why the S10 is on this list. The 4.3-liter Vortec is basically like a classic small block Chevy V8 with 2 cylinders missing. Same basic idea, same robust mindset, same spare parts philosophy. It is an engine from a time when General Motors still knew how to build simple, durable drives that don't cost a fortune every time there is a minor problem. I even have one standing in my driveway. A 1999 S10 in extended cab with a 4.3-liter Vortec V6, 5-speed manual transmission, and rear-wheel drive. I bought it 11 years ago for $2,800. At that time, it had 156,000 miles on the odometer. Today, it stands at 241,000 miles. And do you know what I really had to repair in those 11 years? A fuel pump at 198,000 miles, a starter at 220,000 miles, and spark plugs and spark plug wires once last year. That was it. No drama, no endless workshop bills, no electronics that suddenly paralyze half the vehicle. I use it to transport parts, pick up old equipment, and drive to the landfill. And it starts every morning, no matter what the weather is. The 4.3-liter Vortec produces 190 HP in this generation. On paper, that doesn't sound spectacular, but you have to remember the truck only weighs about 3,400 pounds. As a result, it feels more powerful in everyday use than the numbers suggest. It tows up to 5,500 pounds without constantly struggling, and 18 to 21 miles per gallon are possible on the highway. The transmissions are also no surprise to mechanics. The 5-speed manual transmission is straightforward, and even the 4L60E automatic is known everywhere. Parts are available almost everywhere, and repairs remain affordable. A rebuilt 4L6E transmission costs around $1,800 in many workshops, including installation. That's less than a single major repair on some modern 10-speed automatic transmissions. In terms of price, the S10 is still surprisingly reasonable today. A clean S10 with rear-wheel drive and a 4.3-liter engine often costs between $3,500 and $7,000. An all-wheel drive model is more likely to cost $5,000 to $9,000. Compare that to a Toyota Tacoma of similar age. With the 3.4-liter V6, these trucks are often offered for $12,000 to $18,000, sometimes almost regardless of condition, because the Tacoma has a cult status. Mechanically, a good S10 with the 4.3-liter V6 can last just as long if you take a close look when buying. The most important enemy is rust. Check the cab corners, the sills, and the frame areas behind the cab. If these areas are solid, the drive can live longer than the body. You should also keep an eye on the intake manifold gaskets. These 4.3-liter engines use plastic gaskets in this era that can leak coolant around 150,000 miles. This is a well-known issue and about a $400 repair. If it hasn't been done yet, you should factor it into the price. But that's exactly the point. With the Chevy S10, the weaknesses are known, the repairs are manageable, and the technology is honest. Not a truck for show-offs, but one that starts in the morning, works, and doesn't constantly remind you how expensive modern vehicles have become. Place 2, 1998 to 2011 Ford Ranger with 2.3-liter engine and manual transmission. In second place is the 1998 to 2011 Ford Ranger. And yes, here we have to talk about the 2.3-liter Duratec 4-cylinder again, because it's the same reason why the Mazda B series is so interesting. Mechanically, these two trucks are closely related, but the Ranger still gets its own place because it is much easier to find on the used car market, and because especially the simple base models with manual transmissions are often offered far too cheaply. This is the truck that I have probably recommended to more first-time buyers in my career than any other vehicle. Not because it's fast, not because it's luxurious, not because it will impress anyone, but because it does exactly what a simple pickup should do: start, drive, work, and not constantly empty your account. Last winter, a young woman came to my workshop and asked me for advice. She was a nursing student, had hardly any money, and had to drive 40 miles to her practical assignments every day. Her budget was $5,000. Everyone had told her to buy a Honda Civic. I told her, buy a Ranger. She looked at me as if I had completely lost my mind. 2 weeks later, she came back. She had found a 2009 Ford Ranger XL, regular cab, 2.3-liter 4-cylinder, 5-speed manual transmission, rear-wheel drive, 118,000 miles, and a purchase price of $4,400. Since then, she has driven 31,000 miles with it. The total repairs? An oil change. No typo. One oil change in 1 year of operation. The truck just runs. The 2.3-liter Duratec is related to engines that were also used in the Ford Focus, Mazda 3, and some Ford Fusion models. It only produces 143 HP, and that sounds weak on paper, but it gets around 27 miles per gallon on the highway. That's better than many modern crossovers, and more importantly, it is simple in design. Timing chain instead of timing belt, port fuel injection instead of direct injection. No turbo, no susceptible variable cam phasers, no carbon deposits on the intake valves. This was a time when Ford engineers apparently thought more about durability than about beautiful performance diagrams for marketing presentations. And that's exactly why this Ranger is so good. It doesn't feel modern, but it feels honest. And sometimes that's much more important in a used truck. Today, a clean Ranger XL from 2009 to 2011 with a 2.3-liter engine and manual transmission mostly costs between $5,000 and $9,000, depending on mileage and region. The four cylinders with manual transmissions are often the cheapest because hardly anyone wants to drive a manual transmission anymore. That's exactly why you should take a look at them. The clutch often lasts up to around 200,000 miles with reasonable driving. And if it ever needs to be replaced, it usually only costs $600 to $800 at an independent shop. When buying, you still have to take a close look. Check the frame for rust, especially at the rear spring mounts and around the spare wheel bracket. Listen for a rattling timing chain when starting cold, as some early 2.3 Duratec engines had problems with the chain tensioner. In many, this was resolved as part of a recall. If there are service records that confirm this, that's a very good sign, because then you might be looking at a pickup that can run 300,000 miles without breaking a sweat. It's not exciting, it's not fast, it's not the truck you'll use to show off to your neighbors. But if you have little money and need a vehicle that will reliably get you through everyday life, then a simple Ford Ranger with a 2.3-liter engine and manual transmission is exactly the truck that far too many people overlook. Place 1, Nissan Frontier, 2005 to 2019 with VQ40DE V6. And now we come to first place. The second-generation Nissan Frontier, built from 2005 to 2019, especially with the 4.0-liter VQ40DE V6. If I had to buy a pickup tomorrow that I want to drive for the next 15 years, and if I want to spend as little money as possible on repairs, then this exact truck would be at the top of my list. The crazy thing is, many people hardly notice the Frontier. Nissan hardly advertised it much for years. While other manufacturers were constantly launching new models, new screens, new transmissions, new engines, and new marketing promises, Nissan simply continued to build this truck. Year after year, almost unchanged. And that's exactly why it's so good. A longtime customer of mine, a pensioner, bought a 2014 Frontier SV with a 4.0-liter V6 4 years ago. The truck had run 78,000 miles and cost $1,425. Today it stands at 162,000 miles. The total repairs in this time? A set of brakes, 2 oil changes per year, and a battery. Nothing more. And this man doesn't just use the truck to drive to the supermarket on Sundays. Every summer he uses it to pull a 4,000-pound camper from Florida to Maine and back. Summer heat, long distances, trailer operation, real stress, and the Frontier didn't even let him down. That's exactly why it's in first place here. The VQ40DE is a really strong engine. It belongs to the same V6 family that was also used in the Nissan 350Z, the Pathfinder, the Xterra, and the Infiniti FX35. In this Frontier, the 4.0-liter V6 produces 261 HP and 281 lb-ft of torque. But even more important than these numbers is what it doesn't have. No turbo, no direct injection, no cylinder deactivation, no complicated system that looks good in the brochure and becomes expensive later. Instead, you get a timing chain, intake manifold injection, and a robust aluminum block. This is technology that may not sound spectacular, but it is precisely this simplicity that makes the difference. I have personally seen several VQ40 engines that have run over 300,000 miles with original internals. A customer of mine drives a 2007 Frontier with 347,000 miles, still with the original engine and original transmission. The 5-speed automatic behind the VQ40 is also not a modern marvel. It's not particularly refined, not extremely economical, and certainly not what a salesman would use to fill a glossy brochure today. But it shifts cleanly and lasts. If the oil has been changed approximately every 60,000 miles, this transmission can last longer than the truck's body. And now comes the point where it gets really interesting. The price. A 2014 to 2016 Nissan Frontier SV with a 4.0-liter V6 and around 80,000 to 100,000 miles often costs between $14,000 and $19,000. A Toyota Tacoma from the same period with a 4.0-liter V6, on the other hand, is often priced at $24,000 to $32,000. That's around $10,000 difference for two trucks that are very close in terms of reliability. The Tacoma has a cult status. The Frontier does not. And that's exactly what explains the price difference. In the workshop, I see these two trucks mechanically much closer together than the market price suggests. People often pay for the emblem and the reputation with the Tacoma. With the Frontier, they pay for the truck itself. But there's one important thing you absolutely have to check on the Frontier. The 2005 to 2010 models had a known problem with the cooler. A crack could form inside, allowing coolant to get into the transmission fluid. That would then destroy the automatic transmission. Frontier owners often call this problem the strawberry milkshake of death because the fluid looks pink and milky afterwards. From 2011 onwards, improved coolers were used, and many affected trucks have either been repaired or have long since disappeared from the market. Nevertheless, be sure to check the transmission fluid. If it looks pink, milky, or brown, walk away immediately. If it is clean red, it looks very good. You should also check the leaf springs at the rear, as they can sag with heavy use. Replacement costs around $600 per side. It's annoying, but no reason to write off the entire truck if the rest is good. So who should buy a Frontier? Anyone who needs a real mid-size pickup that can work for the next 10 years without constantly causing drama. Anyone who doesn't feel like paying the so-called Tacoma surcharge just for a Toyota logo. And anyone who prefers to put their money once into an honest truck instead of being back in the shop every 6 months. The Frontier isn't the loudest name on the market, it's not the most fashionable truck, but that's exactly where its strength lies. It has hardly been changed over the years, not because Nissan couldn't do anything, but because this simple, proven technology worked. And sometimes a vehicle that doesn't constantly want to reinvent itself is exactly the vehicle that lasts the longest. And with that, we have them. 5 pickups that the market has almost completely forgotten, even though these exact trucks often offer more real long-term quality than many modern models that are standing in the yards today for unbelievable prices. The Mazda B-Series, which is actually a Ford Ranger with a different emblem. The Dodge Dakota, which can do more than many people give it credit for. The Chevy S10 with its honest 4.3-liter Vortec V6. The Ford Ranger with the simple 2.3-liter engine and manual transmission. And at the top of the list, the Nissan Frontier with the strong and durable V40DE V6. None of these trucks will impress your neighbors. None of them have a huge 12-inch display, heated steering wheel, luxurious interior lighting, or all the modern gadgets that new pickups are sold with today. But they have something that has become increasingly rare in today's truck world. Simple technology, manageable repairs, and a design that is designed to last a long time. And that's exactly the real lesson. Sometimes the best truck isn't at the front in the dealer's spotlight. Sometimes it's at the very back, a little dusty, with a boring emblem on the tailgate and a price that no one looks at twice. So the next time a salesman tries to talk you into a $50,000 pickup with a turbo engine, complicated transmission, and a short warranty, think of this list. Go to the back of the lot. Take a look at the forgotten trucks. Because often the very vehicles that the market ignores are the vehicles you should really buy. If this video helped you, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more honest truck tips. Drive carefully, take good care of your truck, and your truck will take care of you.